Welcome back to Legalese 123, where we are covering cases across America. Hello, and welcome back to Legalese 123. I'm your host, Missy K. I hope you're doing fabulous on this Monday, week of Thanksgiving. Maybe you have some time off. Maybe you're just working Monday and Tuesday and have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. Maybe, unfortunately, you only have Thursday off or you have Thursday and Friday off. Whatever it is, I hope you're having a great holiday, spending time with family and friends. Today is Monday, the 24th. Hope you're doing well. Well, today I have this lovely frock on today. I knitted this one. This I knitted at some yarn from a lovely shop in Idaho, in Moscow, Idaho. Shout out to the Yarn Underground. You're fabulous. And I believe this was some of her own homemade dyed yarn. And let me tell you, it is so fabulous. So I made like this cowl. I had this huge skein of this yarn, and I was like, what do I do? It was so beautiful. So I made this cowl. I'm not really sure how to wear it. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but anyways, it's lovely, fabulous, and it's mine. I don't very much knit things for myself. I usually knit things for other people, but this one, I said me, and I don't wear it very often, but now the weather's starting to get a little colder, so it's nice to be warm and yummy. So but anyways, you're not here for the knitting talk. I had some lovely fun this weekend. I had some friends over and we played the game Telestration. Have you ever played that game? Basically, it's like Pictionary, but interactive. So you start out with a word, you write the word on, and you pass it on to the next person. And the next person reads the word and they draw the word. Then it goes to the next person, they look at the picture and they write down what they think it is, and so on and so forth until you're done with all of the people, and then you get yours back, and then you read off what everybody thought it was. And it's hilarious. It really is hilarious because some people, their mind goes to one subject, another person's, their mind goes to a different one. Plus you have to draw, right? And if you're not a good drawer, you feel bad for the person that you're handing it off to because they're the ones that are going to have to interpret what you're drawing, right? And you're not allowed to use any letters or numbers in this. So I have this funny one I have to share with you. My friend drew this one, and can you guess what this is? So she's got a person here, and then she's got like a brick wall here, and it says Mexico and USA. And we all of us cracked up so hard as to what she was trying to convey. And spoiler alert, it's the word suggestion was border patrol. So here she is, drew her character. I guess this might be a police badge. I'm not really sure. And the stick figure arms are hilarious. And she's patrolling the border. So I thought I would share that with you to find out if that was a little hilarious for you or not. Because it just tickles me pink, and she's a good sport, and we all had a really good laugh. There were plenty of other ones that we laughed at as well. So it's a great game. If you haven't thought about purchasing it, you should. See the names right there at the bottom, Telestrations, and they have one pack that I think is, I don't know, 4 to 8 players or something like that. And then they've got like a party pack that's 12. And if you have a very large group, you can get 2 together and make it however many you need to play. Anyways, it is a great game to get, really fun. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, as you may know, sometimes the courts are a little bit slow because of the holidays. So there probably isn't going to be much discussed this week, but there are some things that are pending. So if you saw my case brief every Friday, I try to do a case brief of the cases that I'm covering. If you would like if you'd like for me to cover something, put a comment in any of the platforms that I'm on, and I'll be happy to review that and give a case brief on those as well. So the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is, why am I doing this? Why am I making content? Why am I putting myself out there, right? I'm a great storyteller, and I have been telling people in my area about all of the cases that I watch. I'm very much a law nerd. I really like the ins and outs of the courtroom battles and how things are going to play out, and just kind of the behind the scenes cases that are coming through. Technology is also advancing, and how are criminals meandering that? Or are people thinking they're getting away with things like Koberger? Or is, like I said, your device is telling on you, and how are they telling on you? Because as advanced as technology advances, so does your inability to commit a crime and get away with it, right? Not telling you how to crime, just saying in general that, you know, you think you're getting away with something, you're not. So I was telling people about the cases that I was watching and their stories, and you're like, you're just making that up. I can't believe that. That can't be, not in this day and age. How are the police getting away with this? How are the lawyers meandering this? How is this brought into court and they're just like, it's okay, you'll resolve it. It's insane. It really is insane. So within that storytelling, people are like, well, you need to start a channel and just start talking to people. So hit that like and subscribe. We're at 38 viewers right now, which is amazing. Thank you so much. I hope you really like what's going on. We need to get to 50. I'm telling you, come on, share and like, subscribe, please. I need to get to 50 users on YouTube. TikTok's not doing so well. I'm only on 3, but I'll push for that as well. So we're at 38. Please, I need to get to 50 before December the 13th. Why? I have a holiday party that I'm going to, and I need to describe to them what it is that I do. And their number one question, how many subscribers do you have? So let's get it out there. All right. Anyways, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, we've talked a little bit about Aidan Carney, right? Aidan Carney, aka Turtleboy. If you don't know who Aidan Carney is, I'm sorry, I don't know where you live. Aidan Carney is involved in the Karen Reed case. We talked about the Karen Reed case. We talked about Aidan Carney a little. Just go back to my YouTube case briefs and you'll see those particular contents. We haven't done a deep dive really in the Karen Reed case. We just kind of glossed over it because it is voluminous. And when I say voluminous, she's had 2 trials. There's been so many shenanigans and crap, and she's continuing on. She now is in her civil case. The O'Keefe family is suing her. And then she went ahead and sued everybody. And then they came back on Friday and said, well, if you're going to sue us, we're going to bring in Aidan Carney. So that hasn't happened yet. There's a lot of talk, not a lot of action, but civil suits take a very long time. And we'll kind of go into that a little bit with Aidan Carney. So Aidan Carney he says he's an award-winning journalist. He's done some breaking news. So he's a legitimate journalist. He really, really is. He's an independent journalist. He does his homework. He reports on the things that he thinks is worthy. People feed him information, which, they don't feel comfortable going to the mainstream media, and they feed him information, and therefore he gets the story out. He saw the Karen Reed case and started reporting about it. And I do believe that he is very instrumental in her cause. He is a force to be reckoned with, and he basically alerted, if you want to just give him the smallest kudos, he got the word out regionally in his area about her. He was the one that pretty much orchestrated all of the movements and protests. He's the one that got his channel going. He's the one that got people boots on the ground at the courthouse. They were cheering on this cause of how to free Karen Reed. So let's go over a little bit about who Aidan Carney is. So there's a special... So Aidan Carney, in his efforts to help Karen Reed, she had witnesses in her trial, all the House defendants inside the House, the McCabe's, the Alberts, Brian Higgins, and then Brian Albert Jr. was having a party and he had a whole bunch of people in his house. And so Aidan accused these people of committing the murder of John O'Keefe. He's continuing to do that as well to this day. Again, there's the civil case in Karen Reed's case. She's not accusing them of killing John O'Keefe. She's accusing them of taking the heat away from the police to investigate who killed John O'Keefe, could be them, and implicating her. We went over the civil case. So Aidan's being charged with witness intimidating. He talks about these people on his YouTube show all the time, continues to talk to them about his YouTube presentations, even today. He did a rally. He went to their houses, and we saw that on the last stream that I did. He went outside. He had a megaphone and called them murderers outside. So the House defendants were very upset. They wanted him to stop. They couldn't get him to stop. So they complained to the district attorney, Michael Morrissey. Jen said, you have to do something. And so they concocted, and when I say concocted, they did, between the police and the district attorneys, they concocted these charges against him, which is witness intimidation. And something about, I forget what else, permitting or something like that, picketing, but picketing, not picketing correctly. So the district attorney's office couldn't prosecute Aidan because there was a conflict because the Karen Reed case was going on. So they hired a special prosecutor. So that means they get somebody who's not in the district attorney's office, who's an attorney, to come in for a special rate and prosecute somebody because they're conflicted out. In this, they had the first prosecutor was Ken Mello. Ken Mello, I guess, got sick, so they got Robert Cosgrove. And mind you, this started a while ago. I forget what the time frame of his first indictment was. Let me see if I can look it up really quickly. It was December 20th, 2023. I think that's kind of what it states here, but I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. Yeah, he was arraigned in December of 2023. So we'll call it that, right? We'll start it there. So this has been going on since 2023, and here we are in 2025, right? So it's been going on for 2 years now. He had some other cases brought up against him, some other charges in which he had spent 60 days in jail on those charges. That has to do with a former paramour of his, you could say, and that they were trying to get him, so they got him on perhaps some domestic abuse charges, and that's when he went to jail. But they've been trying to get him. When I say they, there's just a lot of people who don't like him and want to see him in jail. So that's kind of the start of it. So here's Robert Cosgrove. I took a screenshot of him. Here's Ken Mello. Robert Cosgrove is the current prosecuting attorney on his case. Or is he? And we're talking about this now because it is a continued like WTF, right? It's a continued, what the heck is going on? So who is Aidan Carney, aka Turtleboy? And we went over this. This is what witness intimidation is. And then who is Karen Reed and how is Aidan connected? You see, here's Aidan Carney on his YouTube presentation, and all these people behind him are Karen Reed supporters and or haters, FYI. And this is I think this is David Yannetti right here. This is one of her attorneys. And I believe this is when she was acquitted in her second trial. And just see all of the thousands of people that were there cheering her on because she was wrongly prosecuted. This is one of his charges. This is the window intimidation charges. He had gone to a pizza place in Canton, and he was outside and he was talking badly about the Chris Albert, who owns it, and Colin Albert was inside, and Colin Albert is one of the people who I think Aidan's being charged with witness intimidation, and so now he's being charged even further, so he's got another charge on him. In the other case that I was talking about, his paramour, his girlfriend, that case that got conflicted out because she ended up suing. It was Lindsay, was her name. She ended up suing Special Prosecutor Robert Cosgrove and the police and the district attorney's office, and so they all were conflicted out of his other case, and so they're like, we don't have anybody to prosecute the case, so we're out. So that one got dismissed. But he still has these witness intimidation charges on him 2 years later. So, is this a stateless case? So that's what I said in this last case. The special prosecutor said, I'm being conflicted out. I'm being sued myself, so I can't prosecute this case anymore. And so the district attorney is like, okay, fine. We don't have anybody to prosecute this case. We're out. We're outsies. Is that happening here? Is that happening in these current witness intimidation charges? Is it going to be stateless? At some point in time, they're either going to have to go on with these charges and get somebody else, or they're going to have to say no. Because what is happening is the mega motion was filed by Aidan Carney's attorneys, Mark Bederow and Timothy Bradel. They filed this mega motion to dismiss. So little bits and pieces are coming out of the discovery that has been in his witness intimidation case, and they also correspond to Lindsay. Lindsay is the paramour. Lindsay was working with Brian Tully, who was a Massachusetts state police officer, and Ken Mello, who was the special prosecutor at that time. They were working with a person named Kate Peters. They were trying to get Aidan Carney incarcerated or bring more charges on him. So they were constantly feeding the police information about Aidan to bolster his case, to get him behind bars. And now so one of the things that they did was they asked Lindsay for her telephone, and they downloaded her phone, the whole entire thing. Instead of just downloading again, in the Brian Walsh case, instead of just downloading the things that they want to look at, which they could, they just downloaded everything, because that's what the police do. They'll just take everything. And they looked at everything. And in that, they gave her phone extraction to Aidan Carney. And in doing so, Aidan got all of everything, things that didn't pertain in his case, but he got everything. And so Lindsay sued Robert Cosgrove, the district attorney, Brian Tully, for doing these things to her. And so that is why they're conflicted out. Are they conflicted out in this case as well? Because Lindsay is seeming like she is a witness in these witness intimidation charges on these cases. She is slowly divulging texts and emails and stuff that are discoverable material exculpatory to Aidan Carney's defense. And they're slowly coming out, and because she's slowly releasing things here and there. And so Aidan's attorneys wrote this big mega motion to dismiss, and I believe that we went over it. So you'll have to go into the case briefs if you want to see that. So it becomes a long, convoluted story. What's going on now? Robert Cosgrove had until last Monday, the 17th, to respond to this mega motion. Remember what I said. The defense writes something, and then the prosecution writes something, and sometimes they go back and forth a couple of times, but then they go in front of the judge and they argue this motion that says, hey, I want this case dismissed. That argument is coming up. It is December the 5th. But in the meantime, this case has been going on for 2 years. And Aidan, unfortunately, is paying his lawyers. Every time something comes out, he's paying his lawyers to write these motions or to go to court. And I thought, wow, how frustrating this is that you're paying this money, you're doing this time, etc., just to clear your name or just to figure out what once and for all whether or not you're going to go to jail or you're not, because basically that's what it boils down to. And, are you going to be here this Christmas? He has 2 children. Am I going to be able to go to their soccer games? Am I going to be able to take them to basketball games? Because he's a very big sports fanatic. Am I going to be there on their birthdays? What is going on? And how can you live your life day to day knowing that you might go to jail? So the case has meandered very slowly because in the beginning, Ken Mello was the first prosecutor. Well, Ken Mello got sick, so they needed another prosecutor. So this special prosecutor needed more time to get familiar with the case and start filing things left and right. And that is Cosgrove. Well, Cosgrove is an older gentleman. And when you hear him talk, etc., you just get this sense that there's no urgency. There's no urgency. Take as long as you need. It's not like someone's life is on the line or anything. Just take your time. So each court case, the lawyers in the case, Tim Bradel and Mark Bederow, they are allowing the process to take its toll or to take its time, right? And in the courtroom, you have to be, you got to be nice and polite and what have you. Mr. Bederow lives in New Jersey, and he's a New Jersey and a New York attorney. And Mr. Bradel is a Massachusetts attorney. So the Massachusetts attorney, I don't have to say I don't want to say that he has to play nice, but that's where his bread and butter is. So he cannot make waves, is what I'm trying to say. He has to be cordial and be respectful and do the code of conduct, etc. Well, I think they're all just tired of it. I think they're all just tired of it, and they're done playing games. Because I was thinking, how many more times can the can get kicked down the road? At what point in time do you just say, enough's enough? And now that the state has not responded, what are they going to do now? It is a week later. It is Monday, the 24th. No response. They're due to be in court next week, the 5th of December. So what's going to happen? So I have something lovely for you. Mr. Bederow was on a YouTube presentation with these lovely attorneys. And there we go. It's Justice Served by Linda Kenny Baden and Michael Bryant. I believe they're in New Jersey, and I believe she actually is a attorney for Aidan on another case. And what does that case involve? Oh boy, well, let me tell you about that one just really quickly. So as I said, Aidan has a YouTube presentation, and whether you like him or you don't, he goes on and says things. You could say that they're kind of controversial, or he just sort of just speaks his mind, and he can be a little abrasive sometimes. He can be out there sometimes. But he called out a woman in New Jersey who was selling Free Karen Reed t-shirts and Turtleboy t-shirts and other sort of merchandise. And she had stated that all or some of the proceeds are going to the Free Karen Reed movement or Turtle Boys movement, right? And Aidan's like, hey, I see that you're selling these shirts and stuff. That's cool, but I'm not seeing any money. Where are you donating it to? And instead of being like, oh, my bad, I'm sorry. Let me see what those funds are or anything. She doubled down and was just like, you're harassing me. I don't have to show you anything. I don't have to prove anything to you. So he kept calling her out and calling her out. Well, I think she sued him. and she's in New Jersey. And so this lovely attorney is taking on his case. I don't know exactly what's happening with that because they've been a little hush-hush about it. So there might have been like a cease and desist. I'm not sure, but I'm sure eventually he'll go into it. So let's look at this. Mr. Bederow is going to come on, and he is going to talk about Aidan's case and how he sees things going. I thought this was a great interview from him. So let's go ahead and let's start this up. Sorry, I gotta move things around just a little bit. One moment. All right, here we go.
So who better to tell us, as we say in the legal biz, what the hell is going on? Mark Bederow is here. How you doing, man?
I'm okay. First of all, happy anniversary.
Thanks, Mark.
Big one, 25, a prominent doctor and big-time lawyer. Wow.
Power couple. Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. We still work for a living, love it. You know, as you know, when you love what you do, it's the best thing in life.
Oh, that's great. But glad to be here and talk to you guys.
Okay, you have to go first, Michael, because I'm told I have lipstick on my teeth, so I have to like.
This is the way things go, Mark. This is just.
I know. Okay.
So you have a new filing today that may or may not have been spurred by the fact that Cosgrove, special prosecutor Cosgrove, missed the deadline. I mean, you would have filed it anyway. It just comes on the heels of their not meeting the deadline. So let's back up before we get to that declaration in detail, which I have in my hot little hand here. It says redacted. Is that because the emails are not attached? Is that what that is?
There's nothing in the actual supplemental affidavit that's redacted, but some of the exhibits reference some prior discovery demands, which for reasons not entirely clear to me, were ordered, put under a protective order by a court. And, you know, we just do what they tell us to do, whether we agree or not. So there are certain redactions, but there's nothing new that's out there that's redacted. And these papers they're actually submitted yesterday, but they weren't ready for filing in the court system until today. They have nothing to do with them missing the deadline. We learned of things last week, and as all responsible attorneys do, we recognize there's the December 5th oral argument. There's new, important, relevant information that we think is significant that the court should be aware of in advance of that. So we rush like hell to get it in front of the court. Why the prosecution needs 2 months to get their house in order and not do it, you know, that's something I guess we'll talk about later. But that's what.
Well, there was some significant. Michael dropped out. There was some significant issues in what was revealed that had been hidden from what I was reading on the internet. A very significant issue. Tell us about it. Set the stage.
Well, I mean, the purpose of the filing, and it's public, so it's, you know, it's all out there, is that in the last week, we have been enlightened about the existence of 5 pieces of indisputably discoverable, and at least in one example, exculpatory evidence, which ought to have been disclosed by the prosecution over the course of the last couple of years and wasn't. And we have a motion to dismiss pending in front of the court, amongst other things, for egregious governmental misconduct, including just a complete indifference and ignoring of their Brady and discovery obligations. So certainly the more we learn about evidence that should have been disclosed and wasn't, we're going to inform the court. And frankly, you know, it's scary. Some of this evidence we discovered on.
Okay, so I'm going to pause right there. Remember earlier I just told you that Lindsay Gattani is like putting out things that the defense didn't have. And so like things are just again coming out that you're just like, well, where was the discovery on this and where was the discovery on that? And some of the stuff that they had was they had the extraction from her phone, Lindsay's phone, but they only had her side of the conversation, and some things were deleted out and changed. It's again, Commonwealth is hiding the ball on certain things, and it's not good. Let's continue.
On Twitter, through prosecution witnesses who clearly were in the custody and control of the prosecution for years, didn't disclose the evidence. They didn't make any effort to investigate. The remainder of the evidence that's cited in the affidavit comes from a Freedom of Information Act request made by a third party who is embroiled in litigation with the DA's office because of their non-disclosure, and other government entities, their non-disclosure of evidence. And the question becomes, why the hell are we getting state police and DA communications involving witnesses from the Norfolk DA's office, releasing them to the public, but a specially assigned prosecutor to our case telling us we have everything is not turning over this evidence? And this has been going on for months, years, and whatnot. And, enough is enough. And, I don't think I've ever in 20 something years, 27, I think now, in dealing with criminal practice, submitted one supplemental affidavit in support of a motion, let alone 4 or 5. And I can't even tell you that this will be the last one, because if you're asking me, do I think we'll learn more before December 5th? I'd say probably we will, right? Why wouldn't we believe that? So, we just want the new judge.
Okay, I'm going to pause there as well. Remember, I just said, oh my goodness, you just can't make this stuff up. Here we are in the upside down crazy world of Massachusetts. And again, I bring these cases to you so you can see, hey, listen, these things just aren't right. In these cases, you're supposed to get all of the discovery material. You're supposed to know the X, Y's, and Z's of what they have and what they're prosecuting you for. Then that is your right then to defend yourself with and through your attorneys to say this information is bogus, or you can't use this information, or this information shouldn't even come into trial because it's prejudicial, it's bad character, it's it was obtained incorrectly. He has a right to defend himself fully and wholeheartedly. You do as well. So if you're not getting the things that you need, and your defense attorneys are going on the TV talking about how bad this case is in all this 27 years, there's something wrong here. So I'm just bringing awareness. Let's continue.
Judge, as it were, as you know, we have a new judge assigned
Right.
to this. Be fully aware of everything and understand the larger point, the macro point.
Oh, I'm going to pause right there. I forgot to mention, they also have a new judge. So their other judge, Judge Doolin, who was hearing this case, and again, it just kept getting kicked down the road. And okay, all right, whatever. Just come back the next time, when the next month. And so in Massachusetts, they rotate the judges. They're on criminal for so long, then they move to civil, and they come back to criminal or whatever. So I think Judge Doolin moved on, and he had told them, hey, I'm moving on. So then Krupp was the judge in Norfolk. He's not the only one, but he was the one that was seeing the case. And then all of a sudden, Krupp is out too. Is Krupp going back? Is Krupp moving? Or were they just like, is Krupp conflicted out because Cosgrove and Krupp do have sort of a relationship? Nobody knows. It was just instantly, poof, one day you had Krupp, now you don't. No explanation. No explanation. So if this doesn't rattle your cage and be like, what? It's rattling their cage as well. They're like, nobody told us anything. And then now the state's not responding to their motion. How are they supposed to prosecute this case? How are they supposed to defend this case? It's mind-blowing. I can't make this stuff up. Let's continue.
The micro point was there's all these emails we didn't get, an exculpatory recording. But the macro point is you can't trust these people when they say we've disclosed all the evidence, because the clear record establishes the exact contrary to that representation. And at what point is enough enough? And, we believe, and will be heard on December 5th, that we've long crossed that threshold, that this case needs to be dumped.
You know, Mark, this is something we talked about when we were on the courthouse steps last time. At that point, we were waiting for the order just been given. 30 days, there needs to be a new prosecutor appointed. That was in the case, now dismissed.
Right.
But it was the same question. What's the consequence of just blowing off these court orders and deadlines? And there doesn't seem to be any consequence.
There doesn't seem to be any consequence. It appears to be just the way things are done there. But what is interesting is this, and again, we don't have all the facts, but my dealings and our dealings as a defense team with the prosecutor have been entirely professional, even though we clearly disagree about the case. But over the year or more that I've been involved, communication has been good. If there are extensions of time, which they seem to frequently seek, we get notified. In this particular motion cycle that occurred, we had a deadline of October 27th. It was supposed to be October 24th, actually, and co-counsel actually said in court, why don't you make it the 27th? We'll give you the weekend. That was the nice, generous, olive branch to do that. And on October 24th at 5 p.m., there was a motion filed seeking an extension. Clearly, given the timing of that filing, it doesn't put us in any position to respond and oppose it. We didn't, never complained. We knew it was going to be granted. Court, or the former court anyway, gave them until November 17th to finish their filings. That was yesterday. That came and went. There was no filing. There's still, to this date, literally on November 18th after 6 o'clock, has been no filing. More interesting is there's been no communication, which is not normal in the course of the relationship of this case. As I said, it's been anything but collegial, appropriate, professional. And, Linda will obviously know this, having been in high-level practice for all these years.
Right. So what Mr. Bederow just said was this just isn't the way that you conduct yourself in a court case. Remember, I was talking to you about how earlier Mr. Bederow was very polite and cordial. Okay, we'll kick it down the can. All right, okay, we'll do this next, and we'll like he was just going through the motions, really. And he continued to be like, okay, Judge Doolin, I'm doing my best. And Cosgrove said, I need more time for discovery and I need to do this and that. And they'd given him extensions and what have you. But at what point in time do you say enough is enough? How can one person live their life like this when you just continue to kick this case down the can or kick the can down the road? So that's why I liked this interview with him, because now here he's addressing these issues and saying, like, this is enough. This is insane. So let's continue on.
What real lawyers always do is talk to lawyers, even on contentious cases. And if they need more time, they would tell you, even if they don't have a good excuse. I'm just letting you know. And the reality is we've heard nothing, not a peep. And that's troubling for a number of reasons. One, it calls into question the professionalism, frankly, about it. But also, we want to appear on December 5th and argue and have this case dismissed. And the longer this fiasco drags on and we're not presented with their reply, that harms our ability, my ability personally, to prepare to do what I have to do. I have other cases to work on. I have other things to do, and set aside time to work on certain things like any professional attorney. And, we've now lost 2 days of real time that, frankly, I had put aside to look at this right away and outline some thoughts about what to say in court, or even consider the possibility of seeking leave of court to file a reply brief, to get that in front of the judge. And so we are losing time. We are not being provided any notice. And this just appears to be the latest thing that happens in this county, where nothing is normal, nothing is done in the way it should be. But in this particular case, to have no communication from the prosecutor is alarming. That's unique. so far.
Don't you find it interesting, and maybe me, as I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you have a new judge that was appointed. I don't know whether you had noticed that that new judge was coming, and all of a sudden you don't hear from the prosecution. Have you thought of whether there is a connection between the two, especially since Cosgrove did have to leave one of the cases because of a conflict of interest?
So I guess in the first instance, we had no idea what was going on, behind the kimono, if you will, in terms of the judicial assignments. We did not ask for it. The prosecution did not ask for it. We were unaware it was happening. We just got emailed an order late last week, I think Friday, saying this happened. And it's interesting. And I can think of some reasons why perhaps that might have happened, but I'll keep that to myself. I don't want to speculate too much about that. In terms of why would it happen? How does it relate to what's happening now with the prosecution? I don't think so. I think it is to our advantage, frankly, to have one judge familiarized, in this case himself, with all the evidence, because I think it strongly favors us. We had no say in it. We just, as I like to say, we go where they send us. They tell us when to show up, what's on tap that day, and we'll do it, whether we agree with it or not. So, I don't know why this happened. We're fine with it. We're not concerned that the judge is from Canton, which is true, apparently. I can't look and see goblins in every window and just assume that has anything to do with it. I mean, look, I think the facts and law are on our side. I think this case is destined to circle the drain. It's just a matter of when. The frustrating part is that we've had December 5th circled for a long time, and we bust our hump to meet deadlines. We work hard all the time. We have 27 different matters going on at the same time, but we do whatever we need to do to get all the information in front of the court to keep the schedule, which we want. And that schedule is now being jeopardized by a complete lack of communication at all on what they're doing. And frankly, it's insane to me.
Yeah. This new judge, it seems to me, we're surprised when something that makes sense happens. And it does make sense that they bring a judge in to consolidate these matters. Makes perfect sense. But it's Massachusetts, so we're like, oh, what the hell's going on? Something's wrong here. Let me ask you this, because I've been looking through your document, and I get to the very end, page 17, and it almost kind of sort of looks like there is an opening to get an evidentiary hearing on some of the underlying matters in this declaration, which would change the timetable. Well, tell me about the thinking there.
Well, we don't expect the judge to rule from the bench on December 5th that this case is going to be dismissed. I would assume, given the issues, that even if it was to happen quickly, it'd be a written decision and would take some time. But in the motions that we filed, which include a motion to dismiss for a just horrible grand jury proceeding, other government misconduct, there is a motion to disqualify the prosecutor, to get access to the Proctor records. We have always said that at a bare minimum.
Okay, I'm going to pause there. So the defense filed another motion last week. We didn't go over it because some of it's kind of just sort of the same reiteration of what's in the mega motion. Plus, I knew that they were going to come on and say it better than I could. So one of the things that they are doing is they are trying to get Cosgrove off of this case as well. And why? It all goes to Lindsay Gattani, who is the ex-paramour of Aidan Carney. What does that have to do with anything? Well, in his other case with her, one of the reasons why he had gone over to her house and how he got the domestic situation with her was that she lured him over there because Tully had given her, Tully or Buchnick, I don't recall which one, had given her a jury or a summons to come and testify in front of, testify in the grand jury in reference to, I guess, witness intimidation. I'm not exactly sure. She had gotten a summons from him. Some people said that it was a fake summons given to her. Some people say it was a real summons given to her. There's some information on the papers. Now, whether or not, as we found out through Proctor and all these other cases, that they sometimes just cut and paste things. And so, whoops, something's on there that's not supposed to be on there, or something's misstated. Don't know that for sure. And so she's considered a witness in this case, in this current case with these witness intimidations. And also, again, through her texts and emails and what have you, you can tell she's very connected to this witness intimidation as well. Because remember, they're trying to get Aidan. So there's conversations back and forth from all of these people, left, right, and center, on how to get Aidan. And again, Aidan was lured over to her place with this fake grand jury summons, and they had an altercation. She said some things he claims he didn't do. And that case has been resolved because they didn't have a prosecutor. So the defense is saying, hey, listen, this prosecutor that got kicked off of that case is conflicted out of this case, and he needs to go as well. So again, when I say, is this case stateless? Maybe Cosgrove didn't respond to their motions because he's like, I'm conflicted off of this case. This case is connected to this case. Should I even respond? And he actually even said that in his last hearing in Krupp. And Krupp was like, well, I can't tell you anything. I can't tell you what to do. He's like, well, I don't know how to respond to XYZ. And he's like, well, you at the DA's office need to figure that out because that's your job. It's not my job as the judge. So I think speculation. I think he's conflicted off of this case. He hasn't responded. He turned it over to the Norfolk DA's office and said, I don't think I can do this anymore. And again, speculation. Maybe they're scrambling, trying to look for another prosecutor, or maybe they're just like, we're going to drag this out, and then poof, it's going to be over. Just like Mr. Bederow said, they have a new judge. They're due to see him December 5th. He doesn't think the judge is going to rule from the bench. He's new to the case. He's got to look over all the papers. So we don't know what's going to happen December 5th. That's why this is so exciting. This is why we're talking about it, because we don't have any clue what's going to happen. So let's continue on. We're almost done with this interview, which is fabulous, by the way.
Minimum, there are material facts that we have alleged that are in question, which at a bare minimum warrant an evidentiary hearing. And we don't want a repeat of what, Canone did in the Karen Reed case, which was just deny that. And I got to tell you, we would very much welcome an evidentiary hearing at which Ken Mello, Tully, Buchanan, Proctor, perhaps other prosecutors, other civilians who are well known to people who follow stuff, are compelled to testify, and for us to question them all about these curious circumstances. So that simply is to make it clear to the court that at a bare minimum, if we're raising material questions of fact that have to be resolved, which the prosecution disagrees with, before you rule on this case, then we're entitled to an evidentiary hearing. And that should have happened in Karen's case. And it absolutely, if you're not going to rule for us on the papers, which frankly I think they should, court should, but if you're not, at a bare minimum, then we need to roll up our sleeves, call these people in, and tee it up, and let's go. Let's
go with that cross-examination. I'm sure. I mean, as I always tell people, we're always biting. We want to get our teeth into that cross-examination.
Yeah, we live for that. So look, you can do it the hard way, the easy way. It's in the client's interest to rule on the papers, but as lawyers, and certainly Linda knows this, we like the blood sport if that's what it comes to, and we're happy to do it. But the bottom line is, we think there's an injustice going on here. And if it's the hard way or the easy way, again, tell us when and where to show up, what we're doing, and we'll be there, and we'll do it the hard way or the easy way. That's all.
You also have the statute of Massachusetts, which is just ridiculous. This whole witness intimidation, just a complete First Amendment violation, in my opinion. Not that Massachusetts is listening to me, but you have that going for you if all else fails, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've made the argument. It's certainly preserved if necessary. In the unlikely event, as they say, you come in second, we have that preserved. That argument's been made, but the mere fact that statute exists is troubling. And if you look at the motion or the affidavit that was filed in support of the existing motions, you can see how problematic this is. I mean, the evidence as alleged in the affidavit and, is supported by the exhibits and facts is that you have a former Massachusetts state trooper, okay? This woman who is disgraced, and that's a common refrain, like a former disgraced trooper who hates Aidan Carney. You ever heard that before? This, is talking to a witness who wants to be a witness, a woman that she knows despises the client and is literally saying, we need to make you a witness. And if we make you a witness, he's screwed. I mean, the fact that can happen, and then 2 weeks later, the guy's serving a jail sentence based upon the uncorroborated word of the witness whose ear they whispered in to do this, it tells you all you need to know. The legal system in Massachusetts is in full-blown crisis. It is just everything about the criminal justice system in Massachusetts is a mess. And today is a perfect example, because you saw on a national level, look at the news just coming out of Massachusetts today for the whole world to see. I mean, you have, we know Karen Reed sued all of the people in that case who yesterday claimed, threatened, didn't actually follow through, not yet, but are threatening to sue. Exactly. You see what's going on in our case. We can't get a response. We have to file and do this. You see what's going on in this Brian Walsh thing. Everybody knows about Sandra Birchmore. And it's just remarkable to me, especially growing up in Massachusetts, that it has literally become a national laughingstock of due process and just the way the criminal justice system works. And I never would have thought that, of all places, such an intellectual cradle of liberty kind of place would be the poster child for the United States of just a disgraceful system that is in full-blown crisis. Yet, here we are.
Here you are.
And if you look at it,
I'm sorry, Michael.
Okay, I couldn't have said it better, right? We're talking about how we're in this upside down crazy world. And in Massachusetts, there's just so much crap going on. You're just like, I cannot believe this. And when I tell people these stories, they're just like, no. And here's Mr. Bederow. He's telling you straight up, look at all this crap that's happening. I can't make this up. He's almost done. Let's continue.
I was going to say,
go ahead. I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. I see you. I know.
No, I'm just going to say that, and you don't need to comment on this. I am shocked that the Attorney General or the governor of the state hasn't intervened. But I don't want you to comment on it because that may affect your case. But I am absolutely shocked that no one has done that, given today, I was dealing with 3 of my own cases today. And I think I texted Michael O'Brien at some point and I said, what's going on in Massachusetts? It's like I can't look at my phone and everything is popping up. So, but you don't have to comment. I don't want to get you in trouble.
I mean, I won't get in trouble and I said this elsewhere the other day. All you need to know is that, there are, a number of lawyers and even what they call content creators, I guess, who cover criminal cases all around. And, you're not in Massachusetts, obviously like me, you're in New York, New Jersey. Some of these other prominent lawyers are in New York, they're in California, they're in Michigan, they're in wherever they are. They're not in Massachusetts. And yet 95% of what they're talking about is in Massachusetts. And if that doesn't tell you, there's a problem here, that's where all their content comes from. It shouldn't be the case, but it is.
It's the center of the incompetence universe, and it really circulates around a handful of people. If you really think about it, this is not a massive number of people involved. It's less than 10 that are all connected in one way or another to these different problems. Let me ask you this. First, of all, I'm digging into a footnote on your paperwork here. You can learn the most from footnotes.
That's where the real
guts it.
All right. I just blabbed on about a whole bunch of stuff and you didn't hear me because I had my mic muted. I'm sorry. Again, I'll be really quick. So, long story short, he was talking about Michael Proctor and 10 people. Michael Proctor is going to expand beyond that. We know there's 19 cases right now that Michael Proctor's texts and stuff are affecting. When Karen Reed did her civil case, she's suing him. She's probably going to get that discovery as well. If Aidan's case continues, he probably will get that as well. Right now, all of that information is under a protective order, and only those that are in the realm of needing Proctor's text for discovery issues will get it. Eventually, the public will get it. So let's continue on.
Readers understand that's where the taxes come out.
People might have been wondering. I know I was early on. Why did these ladies, I use that in quotes, have it out for Aidan Carney? What was the deal? Why did that happen? And you mentioned this, Ms. Genduso, former state trooper, and you mentioned her just a moment ago, but I threw the name in there, who resigned in 2018, says the footnote, after Mr. Carney reported that an internal affairs investigation revealed that she concealed from her employer her prior involvement with a drug-dealing criminal enterprise. So she's pissed off, and that seems to me to be the match that started the whole thing.
Well, I don't profess to be as charismatic or tongue-in-cheek funny as the client or others, but I think the way that he or others similarly situated would describe it is he did a journalism. And what he did was apparently bring that to the public's attention. And by the way, that's good journalism. A corrupt state trooper, or at least a compromised state trooper who was involved in a drug distribution ring and concealed that when she got hired, is as journalistically relevant as anything on two levels. Number one, why the hell is this person a state trooper? Number two, hello, Massachusetts State Police, do you do any background checks? How do you not know this? And he became aware of that and reported that. And he brought it to the public attention. And ultimately, she was forced to resign. I'm sure she would have been terminated. So that's newsworthy. Now, the byproduct of that is she hates him. I mean, which I understand. But you know, hating him also is another problem. And again, I keep looking at Linda because we're lawyers and this is what we do in court. It gives you a motive. It gives you bias. It gives you a reason to falsely accuse or have a motive to harm someone in a criminal case. And, we have text messages that are published, in this document in which she says, I have all this animosity towards him. I don't like him. And then she says, I legit had a dream where I dressed up as a ninja and virtually killed him by stalking him. And that's all well and good. But that's the person who's getting in the ear of a vulnerable woman who's in a terrible relationship with him, who's begging for help and contacting people. And what do? They snooker her into saying, you need to talk to this incompetent prosecutor, make yourself a witness. And I think the word is exploit him.
He's talking about Lindsay Gattani. That is the paramour of Aidan Carney. She had reached out to, let's just say, Aidan's enemies and asked for advice, and they were giving her advice on how to get Aidan. So that's why he went to jail, and that is why these other charges are on him for his own thing, but it's tangled web we weave when we get into all of these things. We're almost done with him, and then we'll wrap up.
Into doing this, and they did it, which also gives the witness, the witness, a clear motive to fabricate and make something up to lead to his arrest. And what do you end up with? You end up with an uncorroborated claim of I was pushed and scared the day I got a summons from the state police to testify in a grand jury and said, you need to come over. He comes over and he ends up going to jail for 60 days. Now, the problem with these facts, if you want to prosecute on those facts, God bless you. I mean, I was a prosecutor. Those are facts I would not pursue, but whatever.
I was a prosecutor, same thing.
Absolutely. But if you are going to prosecute on those facts, for the love of God, man, disclose them early to the defense, recognize your obligations under Brady, under Giglio, in Massachusetts, Rule 14. And if you're going to do it fairly, like have respect for due process and say.
Okay, I'm going to pause there. So we talked a little bit about Karen Reed's case. And as a prosecutor, it is your due diligence to make sure that you have a case that you can bring to what they call, quote unquote, justice, right? You're supposed to make sure that you have like all the evidence on your side. And if you have something that is corrupt, if you have something that has been manipulated, if you have something that just doesn't sit right in your good conscience, your ethical duty is not to prosecute. But there's something going on in the Norfolk District Attorney's Office where they're like, yeah, I know that he said these things. It's okay. We're just going to continue to prosecute. Yeah, we have this inverted video in our possession since the beginning of time, but you're going to trial. Nah, you don't get it the first trial. Here you go. Here's some more stuff the second trial. You weren't harmed by this. You didn't go to jail. And then now here we're in Aidan Carney's case. No discovery. This Massachusetts, it's not just Aidan and Karen's case. If you go back and you look at my video on Trial 4, it's on Netflix. It was a 1991 case in which a young African-American man was being accused of killing a Boston police officer. And Rosemary Scapicchio, heaven sent her, right? Filed many discovery issues. They were getting discovery issues well after his trial number 4. He was going for his 4th trial. They still hadn't given all the discovery materials to him, and the judge was just like, you've got to be kidding me. And this is like, I don't know, 20, 30 years or something like that. So it's going to be Thanksgiving week and you need something to watch Trial 4 on Netflix. I guarantee you're going to be like, what the heck? People's rights are being trampled on left, right, and center in Massachusetts. You think it's going to stop? Nah, they're going to continue driving that train. Let's continue.
We recognize that, Genduso and Gaetani have a motive to falsely accuse him. And the worst part is this evidence, as is revealed in the affidavit, was as specifically requested as evidence could possibly ever be specifically requested. We could not have laid it out any clearer that we know this evidence exists based upon other evidence. We know it has to be exculpatory. We know it's in your possession, but we don't have it. And their response is they just ignore it and they do nothing. And then what happens is the witness, after she sues all of them, puts it online, and then we pull it all online. And so obviously this is a fact that we feel compelled that the court, considering a motion to dismiss for egregious government misconduct, has to be aware of. And that's why you see an affidavit like this, even though nobody wants to submit 5, 6, 7, what it feels like supplemental affidavits, but you have no choice. I mean, you have to zealously represent a client and get the facts out there. And as I said earlier, there's probably going to be more because I just assume it at this point.
And Mark, one of the things I always say is that you and we've been prosecutors. We know our duty as prosecutors.
Right.
And I try to carry that all over to be a defense attorney.
Of course.
Know our duty as a defense attorney. If we did the things that the prosecution is now doing as defense attorneys, we would be in the hooskow, and we'd be losing our license.
You'd be at least bringing your checkbook at the very least.
We'd be in the whooscout, and the amount of scrutiny that people do look at when you have a defense case versus the amount of scrutiny they'll just accept the prosecutor's case and say they're the good guys. They're not necessarily the good guys. They're only the good guys if they're moral. They're not the good guys if they're not moral.
And that's scary because, and I've said this in part of other commentary over the course of a couple of years, talking about all this Massachusetts nonsense, and coming from our background as prosecutors, they are supposed to be what I call the white hat. They are supposed to be the good guys, and the system can't function and the public can't be safe if the prosecution is not acting as the white hat, the good guy. And, it's very easy for the public to assume, oh, you sleazy defense attorneys, you're not interested in justice. You're zealously representing a client. And it's true. I mean, your goal is to push them to the evidence to convict a client, which it can be very different than, a prosecutor who has to do justice in a different sense, which is fairly make sure, the guilty are convicted and the innocent are not. But it's absolutely true. I mean, when you have prosecutors who just blow off deadlines, don't communicate, don't disclose evidence, and then when you call them out on it, and you've seen this in Norfolk County again and again and again in the last several months, their attitude is, so what? And it's not just, in the motion that we don't get a response, the recordings they don't disclose, the other evidence they don't disclose, the way that they rigged the grand jury that they did in Aidan's case. I mean, you even saw it a couple of months ago in a hearing on a different case where over search warrants that weren't disclosed.
Okay, when he's saying rig the grand jury, what he's referring to is, so Aidan Carney, as I said, is a YouTube personality. So he's done a lot of shows about the corruption and exposure in Karen Reed's case, et cetera. And he talks about these witnesses, et cetera. So they took excerpts from his videos and presented it to the grand jury. Well, it is alleged, we don't know if this is true or not yet, but it is alleged that they changed the name of the videos and spliced things to make it seem like he was intimidating witnesses. So it's alleged that I don't know if it was Brian Tully, I don't know if it was Kate Peter, I don't know if it was Ken Mello was involved, that they presented this misinformation to the grand jury, which is when he got indicted. And that's wrong, right? That's illegal. You as a prosecutor you're not supposed to do that. You can't fabricate evidence to convict somebody or to get somebody on an indictment. So this is what they're alleging. We don't know if it's true or not, and that's one of the other things that we were hoping to find out in this case, whether this actually did happen. It's again just I can't I can't make this stuff up. I cannot you can't write a better story.
Closed in an important murder case, and the prosecutor testifies, and his answer is, I don't know, it was Proctor, and just he gave me like 2 out of 6 pages, and I don't know, and I don't know why he didn't do or did do what he did, and he's looking at his watch saying, who's putting the lunch order in, right? I mean, that whole office needs to be fumigated, and I assume it will be. But there is a culture of rot in the Norfolk DA's office. I mean, and that's the problem. It's cultural, because it's clear they have no best practices, they have no standards. Because if they did, something would happen, and something that would happen is people would be terminated, demoted, sanctioned, and instead they just get handed other important cases. I mean, it's the same cast of characters, like you noted. So there is just a culture of rot in that office, and hopefully, it'll come to an end in the next year or so.
Yeah, it comes down from the top. It's Michael Morrissey, and he's responsible for doing something or nothing. When I deal with opposing counsel, I don't care whether I'm on one side or the other. I negotiate. If I can't negotiate, I litigate. It seems like these guys, if they can't negotiate or litigate, they ignore. I've just never seen anything like this, where it makes me worry about Cosgrove. Is the guy all right?
I don't know. I hope so. I don't want to obviously get into that, but there is a culture also, in addition to being, kind of just nonchalant about disclosure and Brady obligations, to just kicking the can down the road. I mean, it's like speedy trial is a foreign concept in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And, again, Michael, I don't know if you've ever practiced in New York, but Linda, I know you have. Speedy trial, to be clear, we're not in a homicide case. And in New York, homicide is exempt from the speedy trial statute. Mm-hmm. But, if Aidan's case was in New York, this case would be on the precipice of dismissal, if not already dismissed, on speedy trial grounds.
Failure to prosecute.
Because they've done nothing. They just they blow deadlines. They don't do this. They don't disclose evidence. They don't announce ready for trial. They don't even pretend to try to be ready for trial. And there comes a point that in other states beyond Massachusetts, a judge says, tick, tick, we're done. But in Massachusetts, it's just, kick it down the road. And I look, I'm just a guest here for now. I think I'm going to get it. I think at this point, I'm just going to get it. I'm going to write the check and just get admitted. Why not? But,
I was a guest in the Hernandez case, as you know, when we got the Aaron, God rest his soul, free of the double homicide after he'd already been convicted of the murder. But in Suffolk County,
you work with Ron Sullivan on that? Obviously, yes.
I was with Ron Sullivan. Yeah, Ron Sullivan, Jose, and I did all the forensic work. Jose was the lead, and Ron was Ron. Ron was the one who actually stood up for the judge. But he was like, the judge was like, cool. He'd like bring us a sidebar, and he'd say, and I've said this on the air, what did I do? What did I do? Because we were upset with him, okay, as opposed to him being. It was a whole different world. We had a great experience. What's the difference between Suffolk County and we get to Norfolk County? And then I don't get it.
I think it's the DA's office. It is a culture of rot, and it's just the way it's always been. And the guy who is DA has been DA for like however many years at this point. He's been on the public payroll for 30, 40 years. And, anyone who's been in government that long, who has the same people working for him, they stuff money in his pockets that work for him, which is also problematic. They have their own state police detectives who are quite literally embedded in the office, which is a recipe for corruption and an absolute mistake. And I hope that when they get a new DA or a new attorney general, they will address that and do it the way that normal prosecutors and police agencies work. But I think it's the culture of rot that exists in Norfolk County. It's the way it's always been, which is never a good answer.
So let me
All right, so we're going to go ahead and pause it there and continue on. So, I mean, Mr. Bederow, I couldn't say it any better. I mean, he's amazing, and just he's just incredible, right? And again, that's Aidan Carney's attorney, Mr. Bederow, there in the middle. All right, so whether you love or you hate Aidan Carney, it doesn't really matter, right? If you don't like him, don't listen to him. If you want to hear what he has to say, that's your free right? Free speech. You are able to make a choice. You want to watch him? You watch him. You don't? You don't. You don't have to like everything he says. You can actually be upset with some of the things that he says. If he's directing things at you, again, be upset as well. Sometimes he just rants on, right? He rants on and he raves and he says unkind things about people. Is that his shtick, right? Is that his Turtleboy character, right? Does he go on there and does he say these things just to get likes and clicks? And are you participating in that? So that is an issue. Again, we're also talking about First Amendment issues, free speech. You have the right in America to say whatever you want. Mind you, there are some small things in reference to, things in the government, etc., but you know what you can and can't say. And should you be unable to say the things that you want to say because somebody doesn't like it, you're getting your feelings hurt, etc. Yeah. But should he be going to jail for it? There are many, many, many other reporters and other people out there who are knocking on people's doors or in people's lawns, camping out, etc., asking questions and stuff. Yet Aidan Carney does some of the same things and he is being prosecuted for it. Doesn't make sense. Make it make sense to me. I have so many questions, right? Now, if you don't like the things that he's saying about you, then why don't you sue him for defamation, right? Apparently, the House defendants in Karen Reed's civil case have said that they then are going to countersue and they're going to sue Aidan Carney. They're going to bring him in. Right now, he's not a named party in any of Karen Reed's stuff. He's just been talked about, saying that it's been alleged that Aidan has been involved, but he's not a named party in any of the suits. And it still doesn't go into the account whether or not Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe. She didn't, by the way. That's a long story for another day. But that they are going to bring Aidan Carney in on the House defendants countersuit against everybody. And they're going to bring Aidan in and sue him for defamation because he might come into all of this based upon what Karen told him, what he knows, etc. But the thing is, the Commonwealth has both of their phones. The Commonwealth has Aidan Carney's phone, have downloaded it. They still have his phone. They haven't given it back to him. They have 2 of Karen Reed's phones. They've downloaded them. Nothing has come of it. So if there was something incriminating between Aidan Carney and Karen Reed, don't you think the Commonwealth would have hit them up already? I mean, they're hot to trot on both of these people. They would do anything to connect them to state that there was another crime, to put both of them behind bars. So what is defamation? Why currently right now are these witnesses not suing Aidan Carney for defamation? Why are they waiting through Karen Reed's thing to do it? It doesn't make any sense, right? So what is defamation? Proving defamation can be very difficult. The burden of proof has to be established on them. The defendant has various robust legal defenses available, such as truth and privilege, right? Proving falsity. You have to prove that these statements are false. You have to prove that they have defamed you. You have to demonstrate that they've harmed you, that the actual statement has caused material harm and reputation to their finances. You've lost your job. Your hurt feelings or embarrassment alone are not enough through statements of defamation per se. Aidan Carney is a personality on YouTube. It's the same as like Howard Stern, who's on the radio, or well, he's on Siri right now, right? How many defamation suits has he been given? You also have to, are you a public figure? For example, when he got accused of intimidating Proctor and Buchanan, those charges were dropped because those are public officials, right? You can't intimidate them. And also the other thing is, Aidan Carney has his own defense, right? Are they powerful statements? Are they opinion? Because that's the other thing too. It's Aidan's opinion. It's covered under the First Amendment. So how are you going to differentiate his statements and how they are harmful to you? It's very, very hard to do. So then the other thing is the high cost and low costs of a defamation lawsuit. It's very expensive to present a defamation lawsuit. A lawyer doesn't get paid unless you win. The lawyer puts all the upfront costs together. And if it's in this case, right, we're talking about 10, 15, 20 people with whom Aidan has defamed, right? And all of that evidence has to come into play, and it costs a lot of money to produce that and to get experts, etc. Then you have to prove it. You have to prove how this has cost you. So due to that, 5% of defamation cases actually make it to trial. You think about the Depp Heard case, right? And the reason why that went to trial is because it's Johnny Depp, right? And did she actually defame him? It was proven that she did. I think that her lawyers did a terrible job. I think she was trying to put this other narrative out there, and it just didn't bode well for her. And maybe it was a big publicity stunt, right? Maybe it was a big publicity stunt for her to get him back on the radar of everything and to change his perception of the world around. You never know these days, right? You got all this AI stuff. You don't know what to believe, what not to believe. And in Aidan Carney's case, he's just being himself. He is a character on YouTube who plays this character. Does he get clicks and likes and all of this stuff because he is who he is? Yeah. Because you got, your feelings hurt. Should that mean anything? Do a cease and desist letter. But Aidan knows that this is his First Amendment right to do and say these things. Does he draw a line and step over it a couple of times? I think he does a little bit. But, hey, to each his own. So that's pretty much all that we have today. Thanks for watching. Remember, please click like, subscribe, do all the YouTube-y things. And when I put this on other places, like and subscribe, follow me for more content. We're going to see you tomorrow. Not sure what we're going to cover, but we'll see. Hope you have a great Monday. Thaw out that turkey if you haven't yet. Bye. Thanks for watching Legalese 123. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe for more content.